Hi friends, so today I'm going to review this ink from Ackerman, and this is none other than the famed SBRE Brown. The ink is one of my favorite shades and probably my most anticipated inks of this year. That whether it would put a bias towards this particular review, I'm not really sure. Let's see, and then we'll compare the ink with a few other samples, and I'll let you know my thoughts about this. The best part of the ink, apart from the ink per se, is the bottle, and it has a small marble inside which acts as a valve, and whenever you wish to fill the ink, you'll have to invert it so that the lower reservoir fills completely and the marble drops down, and it helps you to fill your ink from this above reservoir. If you tilt it slightly, this reservoir again empties up into the lower one. So here I have inverted it. This is full. If you keep it vertically, this will remain full. However, if you tilt it slightly, you see it empties again. This is a very nice design, and many people buy ink from Ackerman just for the purpose of this beautiful bottle. But my purpose is mostly what is inside this. The ink is available in this bottle of 60 ml, and it's available from PW Ackerman's site. It retails for about 17.5 euros. That includes the tax, and if you are getting it shipped outside Europe, the charges would be somewhere around 14.5 to 15 euros. Constellations 88 journal, and the paper is fountain pen friendly, although the grade of this paper I'm not sure, but it does perform very well for the purpose of writing with a fountain pen. I'm going to start with the extra fine pen, and then extra fine nib on this cheap Chinese pen, and then I'm going to change the nibs on my Lamy Safari, and we're going to go all the way down to 1.1 stub. So this is ink review for Ackerman SBRE Brown. Now I'm going to use my Safari. Now you start to see the shades of this ink. This is basically a kind of a brownish orange shade ink, and that it starts to shade well from a transition from fine and medium, and then again it would become pretty saturated and the shading would go away. I'll take a pic of this in a better light, and then I'll put the screenshot in between. So there you now see that the more orangish hint of the ink has started to come back, and this increases tremendously once you go from a medium to a broad nib. And then on to a 1.1 stub. This particular stub writes on a drier side. I haven't really modified much this particular nib, so you would find that this is a tad on the drier scale. So how's the ink? How's the performance of this ink? And then a comparison with the shades with a similar shade. Well, I'll switch back to the medium nib. For me, that writes the flow of the medium nib is the best. So I'll just switch on to the medium nib. So if we have to rate the attributes of this as regards the shading, flow, feathering, ghosting. The shading of this particular ink on a scale of 1 to 5, I would rate it somewhere close to about 3.5 to 4. And the reason is that what my particular preference is, ink which this is my particular preference. If I have to look towards a shade of a brown orange, I would want it to the lighter part to be slightly on more orange side rather than this, and I did manage to achieve that with some ink combination with KWZ Monarch and Toffee Brown combination. That was actually my preferred shade of brown, which is the most pleasant to my eyes. The flow of this ink is perfect. I would say it's just about 4.5 of 5. This is a very good flowing ink. Feathering is almost none. There's no feathering on a good paper, and even on a cheap photocopier paper, I'd say that it doesn't feather at all. And I'll put a small sample of that. Ghosting, none. So and even bleed through. You don't find this ink shining on the back of the paper, either this or even the cheap papers. So it doesn't bleed through. I went and did some while I show you the drying time of this ink, I'll just make a grid and so that we can check about its waterproofing capability. So here I did some drying time through of this ink, and you can see that the drying is almost by about 10 or 15 seconds it almost completely dries up. So that's regarding the drying time. And a comparison with orange shades. Here you have a comparison of SBRE Brown with some different ink shades. You have Diamond Terracotta, which is on a lighter scale, Autumn Oak, which is bordering on the orange side, Honey Burst, again yellowish orange, and Krishna Ink's Autumn Orange is one of the perfect orange shades, along with Lucky Orange from Mont Blanc, almost comparable. Then you have KWZ Monarch, which is slightly on a lightish brown scale. Diamond Ancient Copper is something which comes close in these particular samples to that. Then you have Herbane Cornelian d'Egypte and Sendoku Red Brown. This is a limited edition ink. And then you have James Booty. So I did somewhere, I had a sample of James Booty. I'll put a screenshot from one of my entries in my ink book. And then a Gentle Apricot. Another ink which I found, Petit Prince Red Fox. This is almost on a reddish note, and SBRE Brown is again orangish brown. Now the writing samples which I have taken, this is from Lamy Safari. My favorite pen with which I ink this particular ink or SBRE Brown is with Bock titanium nib, and you can see that in a wet flowing pen with a broad tip, this ink shades really well. So it depends a lot on the kind of a flow and the tipping of the pen. Obviously it does, but even with different nibs, you really sometimes can't judge the actual shade which you will get on the pen. This does have that attribute of shading significantly differently on different pens. So let us check its water resistance. I'll just gently dab it away. Almost no waterproofing capabilities. You can expect that after a spill, if you wipe it out even fast, you would generally have nothing left behind. So all in all, it's a wonderful ink. It's got good shading and it's got a good flow. I do like this ink and I'd rate it a 8.5 out of 10 on my preference scale. I hope you liked this video. This was my first ink review, and let's meet up next time soon again for another review.